Good morning, everyone. As you all know, my name is Xavier and welcome to my English presentation. In today's presentation, I will be speaking on the late and great Daniel Webster. My PowerPoint presentation will be inserted here so you can see the information that I will be speaking on. And yeah, let's just get right into this presentation. As you can see, there are some examples of Daniel Webster in the last years of his life. He's a little frail and a little older. Okay, so who is Daniel Webster? Daniel Webster was born on January 18, 1782 in Salisbury, New Hampshire. He was a lawyer, congressman, and senator. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1812 and later gained a seat in the U.S. Senate. Webster's most significant accomplishment was being named the Secretary of State by President William Henry Harrison. He later died on October 24, 1852 in Marshfield, Massachusetts. Early life of Daniel Webster. He was the son of Ebenezer and Abigail Webster. His father was a veteran of the American Revolution, farmer, and a tavern owner who was substantially involved in politics. Webster's mother was a housewife and possibly had a stay-at-home job where she would have spun cloth or fulfilled the role of a washerwoman. Daniel was the second youngest of 10 children. He had to deal with 9 other siblings. Adults back in that time era would have many kids, so they would have more helpers to help on the farm or family-owned business. When Daniel was a child, he had very dark skin, black hair, and eyes. His dark skin earned himself the nickname of Black Dan. He developed a passion for learning and reading. His childhood passion led him on the road to success until the day he died. He began his academic education in 1796 at Phillips Academy in Exeter. At the age of 15, Daniel transitioned into a college lifestyle at Dartmouth College. Life after college. Soon after graduating from Dartmouth, Daniel continued to study law. In 1805, he was admitted to the bar, which is an organization for lawyers. He opened a law office in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, where most of his success came from. In 1807, he became a noted spokesman for the Federalists. The Federalists were a leading political party that believed in a strong federal government. He spoke for his political party through his addresses on patriotic occasions. During the same year as becoming a noted spokesman, Daniel married Grace Fletcher. Daniel was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1813, in which he regenerated the Federalist minority. He attacked the war policy of the Republicans to re-energize the opposition. Restructure of the Bank of the United States. American and British forces fought over shipping rights after the War of 1812. Daniel called for the restructuring of the Bank of the United States, but then voted against the final bill of the Reconstruction. He treated the final bill as if it were defective. Daniel voted against the protective tariff since he was the representative of a region where shipping was basic to the economy. House of Representatives. Daniel Webster stayed part of the House of Representatives until 1817. He then after moved with his wife and 2 children to Boston. He moved to the promising metropolis of Boston. After that, he was known as the city's constitutional lawyer in the law courts. He acted as a delegate to the 1820 Massachusetts Constitutional Convention. Lawyer. From 1823 to 1827 in the National House of Representatives, Webster became one of the highest paid lawyers in the entire country. As he carried the title of the highest paid lawyer, he argued a series of significant cases ahead of the Supreme Court. He greatly influenced the many opinions that Chief Justice John Marshall contained. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Marshall drew from Webster that the power to tax is the power to destroy. The significant cases. In 1819, Daniel maintained that a state's grant of a charter to do business was a contract that the state could not impair, in the case Dartmouth College versus Woodward. In McCulloch versus Maryland, he argued that a state could not tax a federal agency. In the case Gibbons versus Ogden in 1824, Webster argued the fact that a state was not able to intrude upon the congressional power. The primary purpose of this argument was to regulate interstate commerce. Webster's main argument in some of his many cases have had the effect of enlarging the authority of the federal government. Although Daniel Webster did a fantastic job defending his arguments during these cases, he must have forgotten the recent arguments that he made in the opposition to the War of 1812. Webster's views. Throughout the lifetime of Daniel Webster, he may have changed some of his views along the way, but has always remained a strict constitutionalist of the Constitution. Since he contained the role, he opposed the protective tariffs of 1824 and 1826. Fame. In 1820, Webster conveyed the first of several occasional addresses that were to bring him fame as America's peerless orator. He first received fame as being America's highest paid lawyer, and now he is receiving fame from his addresses. He received most of his popularity from being America's peerless orator. Senate. In 1827, Webster was elected to Senate. He made his mark during his career when he became a champion of the protective tariff. The Tariff of Abominations was passed in 1828, mainly because of how much Webster supported it. Daniel's family tragedy. Daniel Webster's first wife died shortly after he was elected to Senate. Grace Fletcher left behind her husband and 4 sons. The identity of their sons was not revealed. It's really strange because there's information about obviously Daniel Webster and Grace Fletcher, but their sons, no name, no date, no place of birth, anything. So 2 years later, Webster married Catherine Leroy at the age of 31. She was the daughter of Herman Leroy, a New York merchant. Southern states' rights doctrines. Webster re-energized the nation once again by his speeches in response to elaborate explanations of the Southern states' rights doctrines made by Senator Robert Y. Hayne of South Carolina. It is believed that these speeches defined the constitutional issues. Webster's lectures were also known to disturb the nation for nearly 30 years. Tariff of Abominations. The South Carolinians blamed the Tariff of Abominations for their economic problems. Daniel Webster forcefully defended the powers of the federal government compared to the alleged rights of the states. He concluded with the appeal, "Liberty and union now and forever, one and inseparable." This particular speech indeed made him a hero of nationalists throughout the North. Daniel Webster was an opponent of President Andrew Jackson, who was in support of resisting the attempt. In 1830, Webster was at the height of his powers. Andrew Jackson and Webster. Jackson and Webster disagreed on many issues, but mainly with the question of the Bank of the United States. Webster served as the director of the Boston branch, Senate champion, and served in the capacities of legal counsel along with Henry Clay. As for where Jackson attacked as a dangerous and undemocratic monopoly, Webster and Clay came together and became the leaders of the Whig Party. They were known as a heterogeneous group opposed to Jackson and the Democrats. The Whigs at the end failed to get the bank rechartered and lost the war properly known as the Bank War. Midlife crisis. During the Panic of 1837, the only thing that saved Daniel Webster was loans from business friends. The Panic of 1837 was a desperate financial crisis resulting from this expansion into Western lands. In 1844, he allowed business friends to raise funds to provide him with an income. I believe that this period of Webster's life was the lowest point he had ever reached. Without the help of others, who knows what Webster would have done with his life. He basically depended on his friends to support him on his income. To me, he was kind of giving up on life because you're allowing friends to give you money. Go work, go do something. Secretary of State. In 1836, Daniel Webster carried his state when he was only running as one of 3 Whig presidential candidates. In 1841, he was appointed the Secretary of State. He was elected after the Whigs had won the election with an Ohio war hero, William Henry Harrison, and John Tyler, a renegade Virginia Democrat who served as vice president. Webster stayed a member of Tyler's cabinet after Harrison's death, though Henry Clay invited members to resign in protest against Tyler's anti-tariff, anti-bank. Webster carried the hope that he would be able to form a new political combination with Tyler. He created the Webster-Ashburton Treaty in 1842 to fulfill this, in which he gained approval with newspaper propaganda. He did not believe that there was a chance of the creation of a Tyler-Webster party and left the cabinet in 1843. Return to Senate. Daniel Webster returned back to Senate in 1844. Upon his return, he quickly opposed the annexation of Texas. The annexation was the exception into the Union. Soon after, he worked to remove slavery. Webster made a speech in 1850 defending the new fugitive slave law. The law provided for the return of escaped slaves. In July 1850, Webster once again became the Secretary of State in Willard Fillmore's cabinet. He lost the rest of the hope that he had for the presidency when the Whigs passed over him. They were in favor of General Winfield Scott, who was a former Democrat. Daniel Webster became frustrated and enraged over politics. Final days of Webster's life. Webster pursued his desire in the avocation of a gentleman farmer. He owned many farms in many states, but his favorite was located on the Massachusetts coast at Marshfield, where he was born. This estate is where he spent the last days of his life and died on October 24th, 1852. In conclusion, Daniel Webster was a man who had a love-hate relationship with politics. Though Daniel didn't have the best childhood growing up in a house with 9 other siblings, he made a name for himself. I believe that Daniel wanted to be someone one day and not live in the shadows of his family. He had the passion given by the Lord to make a change in the government. Daniel Webster might not have been the President of the United States, but he had enough passion for his country to fulfill the position. He stood up and argued for what he believed in and not the beliefs that would win the favor of the average citizen. Daniel Webster will forever be known as a lawyer, congressman, senator, and a man who isn't afraid to share his opinion. And that is the end of my Daniel Webster presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, even though you guys were forced to hear me ramble about Daniel Webster. But in all seriousness, Daniel Webster was the man who was never afraid to share his beliefs or his opinion over politics or simply the beliefs he had in his daily life. As you can see, he did not have the best life growing up. He was poor, he had 9 other siblings, he wasn't rich and famous like he was in his later days of his life. But he worked to those steps that he wanted to be. He stood up for what he believed in the government and in politics, that he actually did make a change, because now he's known as a man who was never afraid to share his opinion. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next project video. Yeah, okay, bye guys.